Hello, I'm Dr. Jean Clinton, an infant, child, and adolescent psychiatrist, and I'm very thrilled to be here with you at the Conseil Scolaire Catholique Franco-Nord. I want to start by acknowledging the land that we are on and which the Franco-Nord Catholic School Board are located. They come from the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, Algonquin, and Métis, and that they are part of the 1850 Robinson-Huron Treaty and the Treaty of Williams, Mississauga, 1923. We would also like to thank the Nipissing and Dulces First Nation, the Mattawa Algonquins, and the Métis, whose ancestral territories are today the regions where we learn and live together. I want to spend this next time with you talking about how love builds brains, specifically thinking about the importance of this concept as we're working in the preschool years, whether as an adult with children under your care or as parents. What the key messages that are going to come through over and over again is that love builds brains, and the power of connection to do that is so very powerful. So I have been hugely influenced by the teachings of the First Nations, and particularly the Mohawk elder Tom Porter from Akwesasne. I spent some time with Tom on his land. And what he has taught me is that in their culture, children are seen as the sacred ones. They are seen as the heart of the nation. And in fact, the word for child is something along the lines of he who has the light within. Isn't that wonderful? It is so close to Catholic values as well. And I love the fact that we can really think deeply about how can the First Nations help us recognize that sacred nature of all children. And you know that children who come with special rights, they're not needs, they're special rights. All of them have a story to tell us, a lesson for us to learn. So I want to focus as we start just on what are we really thinking a lot about these days in my world of child psychiatry and knowledge translator. And that is that through these challenging times of COVID, that we're creating the surrounding buffering relationships for our children, that they are going to deal with this challenge and they're going to come out better afterwards. That's what resilience is all about. And so what we know particularly about preschoolers is that how we as the adults in their life can be fully present with them, can manage our own anxiety, the better off our kids are going to be. So, you know, our little ones, I have five great grandchildren. I mean, they're terrific grandchildren. They're my children's children. And they know that there is a virus around. They come up, they play outside. We are distant from them. And the other day, my little Jamie said, Nana, when the virus goes away, I'll be able to give you a big hug and you'll be able to read to me. So the fact that the virus is here is transparent to them. And they know that by keeping their distance from Nana and Papa, that they're making a difference. These are key in terms of resilience. Why am I so keen about exploring this? Well, a big reason is I'm a brain geek. I love the brain. But why do I love the brain as a child psychiatrist? Is it's really helped me understand how emotions get formed, how reactions get developed and reinforced. And I've learned now that the brain is our main organ. It is our master organ, and it is a social organ. It's not just produced by our genes, but is actually nature. Our genes is listening to the environment all the time, the nurture. So it's not, is it genes or is it environment? Is it nature? Is it nurture? But it's the two of them interacting. But you know, there are times, key times, when nature is particularly listening to nurture. and the early years is one of them. I'll talk in a later video about the middle years and in another one about adolescence, but I'm going to focus just now on what do we need to know as parents and educators about how that brain is being developed in the earliest years. So the baby's brain, when it's born, only weighs about 1 pound, but by the time it's through the preschool years, it's going to triple in size, be about 3 pounds. It's not neurons that are getting multiplied, the basic cell, but it's all of the connections. And what builds those connections is relationship and experiences. So, all of the areas of the brain, like sound, communication, all of them, all those areas are made up of these neurons. And the neurons talk to each other. They send signals down that long red part. And when they get to each other, they send little transmitters, chemical transmitters called neurotransmitters, like dopamine, serotonin, other transmitters to make those connections happen. So, what we're learning, particularly hugely in the early years, is that it is the back and forth, the serve and return of everyday drip, drip, drip experiences that builds the brain. It is not about fancy flashcards. It certainly is not about screens. It is about face to face communication. Learning more about this is very easy if you go to this resource on the bottom, the Harvard Center on the Developing Child. So, the architecture of the brain is built in the early years by the experience. That is, the neurons wire up together when they're fired together. And the brain is a massively social organ. We are completely wired to connect. We are hunter-gatherers by ancestry. So we need to have that group of people who are crazy about you to drive the development in a healthy way. In fact, I talk about every child needing at least one adult whose eyes light up, like you see here between my son and grandson, whose eyes light up when they enter the room. That changes the biology of the brain. It buffers against things that damage the brain, like too much stress. So, as educators, we really need to be thinking about a social and relationship aspect of education, not just the content, as many of you are doing, and as your mission statement and vision in Franco-Nord is so clearly stating. So relationships matter. They matter because they build a sense of yourself, so they promote healthy development, but they also protect against adverse things happening. So let's talk a little bit though about what does that have to do with the fact that my toddler, that little being who was a gorgeous little baby who is now up and walking and into everything. Remember the toddler's creed. Their brains are under construction. And the toddler's creed is, if I want it, it's mine. If I give it to you and change my mind later, it's mine. If I had it a little while ago, it's mine. If it's mine, it will never belong to anyone else, no matter what. If we're building something together, all the pieces are mine. If it looks like mine, it is mine. And I also like to add, oops, if I break it, it's yours. So what is going on in that toddler's brain? Well, to do a really good understanding of this, we have to recognize what are the main tasks in the preschool years, the main developmental growing tasks. And so a huge part is learning how to connect, to attach to significant adults in your life, whether it's your preschool teacher. It's so important that it is your mom, your dad, your partner's parent's partner, but that you learn how to be connected to them. And you do that first by regulating, by being co-regulated by them. So your big, powerful feelings are modified. They are held in by the relationships, the co-regulation. People around you say, oh, I see you're so upset. Come on and I'll give you a hug. I'll help you feel better. So you need that close relationship so that you can go out and explore the world. But boy, oh boy, you sure need it to come back when something's upsetting you, to know that the world is a safe place and you've got a safe haven. Another huge part of toddler preschool development is learning about your emotions. You need to learn how to experience them, how to manage them, become the kind of boss of them, and how to express a full range of emotion. So that means we have to be very, very careful that we don't just allow our kids to have happy feelings, that we allow them to be sad. Don't say don't be sad, don't be nervous, don't be anxious. Say I see that you are. Why is that so important? Because we know that when kids can feel their emotion and express them, it changes the areas of the brain that are lighting up and connecting, the neurons connecting. When kids have language, complex language for emotion, they learn to become the master of that emotion. The emotion takes up less energy. And then all of this is important to develop so that you can go out and explore the world. So I have a mantra. I have one or two. So you've heard one, like eyes lighting up. The next one is really stop and think. Am I connecting more or am I directing and correcting my kids? Whether it's your own or whether you're an educator. Because what we know is when you connect first, then you help kids regulate. You help them become aware of their emotion and build their toolkit to be able to master those emotions, deal with them, not just keep them in, but actually process and deal with them. So I ask early childhood educators, what is your connecting to directing and correcting ratio? The other thing that is so hugely important is that we never reject our kids. I am not big on punishment in any form, not even for timeout, even though, you know, there's good evidence for it from the behaviorists. But I would prefer to have time in where when a child is upset, if every behavior is communication, and that all children would do well if they can, then we need to think that their behavior is communicating. It's not manipulating, it's not attention seeking. Think of it as connection seeking. So create a sense of belonging, of them feeling felt by you. So I so love the organizational values and the full focus you have on creating in your education district the full citizen, the citizen who is welcomed, the citizen who contributes back, and the citizen who seeks for excellence. So relationships absolutely matter. Connect before you correct. Monitor stress. It's so important. Kids need to have stress, but if they're having too much stress, they need us to co-regulate them, bring them in. And then, you know, for your own health and well-being, it's so important. This is a great article, the pandemic toolkit that all parents need. You need to be thinking about keeping routine, having good sleep, getting out and exercise and playing, finding your calm, know where your happy place is. Have family meals together, so important. All of these things, reaching out to others, limiting the time on your phone, and focusing where you're going to get the most positivity. All of these things will help you not only love yourself and build your own brain, but build the brains of your kids. So remember what Maya Angelou says. I've learned that people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but your kids will never forget how you made them feel. Merci beaucoup. I hope that there are things in what I've said that can tweak a little interest in going deeper. I actually think about, what are you already doing? What do you want to learn more about? And how are you going to change your practice? So be well, live well, and love those kids. Thank you so very much.